famous nightclub in the world, the Cavern, Liverpool, where on the 5th of February 1961, 4 young Liverpool lads took to that stage and started a musical sensation that would rock the world. The Cavern opened as a jazz club in 1957, and the Beatles played here 292 times. As their popularity grew, so did their audiences, until eventually so many Liverpool teenagers crowded into this tiny room to see their heroes play that the sweat from their bodies caused condensation to drip from the ceiling and land on the Beatles' instruments, fusing their amplifiers. You could say it was a truly electrifying atmosphere.
Traditional jazz was no longer the big draw. Skiffle had won the fight for a hearing. But these were national trends, too conventional for Liverpool youth. Something new was wanted, and out of the Cavern there emerged a new sound. A few chords strung together on a cheap guitar, a drum for a beat, another guitar, more chords, a bass to give balance. The Mersey beat came firm from the mold. By 1960, beat groups were billed as big attractions. The young generation would listen to little else. New jazz clubs opened overnight. And as the new jazz clubs opened overnight, so the new beat groups came into being. Every facility for the formation of these groups was ready to hand.
The English National Trust have bought this house, 20 Fortlin Road, and restored it to its original 60s condition. That's because it was to here in 1955 that Paul McCartney moved with his family. Paul's father was also a musician and encouraged Paul in his musical aspirations. Paul discovered that the acoustics in his bathroom made up for the lack of amplification and spent many hours practicing his guitar there. Having met John Lennon, the front room was a regular rehearsal venue. One of the many myths that have built up around the Beatles is that John Lennon was a working-class hero brought up in the slums of Liverpool. In fact, he spent more time in this pretty little middle-class house, number 251 Menlove Avenue, than he did in any other place throughout his 40-year life. He was brought up here by his Aunt Mimi and his Uncle George, and you can almost imagine the young John Lennon walking through these gates and down this street. Every morning, the young John Lennon would walk down this beautiful tree-lined avenue. Little has changed since the 1950s. He'd have passed this park on my left, on his way to Quarry Bank School, right over there. It was here at Quarry Bank School, now called Calderston School, that John started his famous skiffle group, the Quarrymen, and showed signs of the rebellious young man that he'd later grow up to be. In fact, he spent so much time on his music and editing the satirical school newspaper that he failed all of his exams, even his beloved art. But he later went on to the Liverpool School of Art. So it was goodbye, Quarry Bank. Hello, the future. This imposing sandstone church behind me may seem an unlikely place to stop on our journey through the Beatles' history. But it was here, on the 6th of July 1957, that a young Paul McCartney was brought to see the Quarrymen, John Lennon's skiffle group. In a field behind this church, Paul saw the young John Lennon play for the first time and was very impressed, even though John forgot many of the words to the 50s songs he was singing and had to improvise. If you look around this graveyard, you'll find the occasional inspirational clue to the Beatles' presence. Eleanor Rigby's gravestone, Father Mackenzie, all lying in front of the church where the wedding had been. Ken Rawlinson, you're the caretaker of St. Peter's Church.
I am, yes.
Can you tell us about the Beatles' connection with this church?
Well, 40 odd years ago the Beatles played here as a skiffle group on the field at the back in the daytime and in the big church hall in the evening.
And this is where John and Paul first met?
It is, yes.
I believe that there are, in the graveyard, there are some other Beatles connections.
Yes, we have Eleanor Rigby's grave, from the song of course, and we think Father Mackenzie may have been from the Catholic Church next door.
Right, so quite a strong part of Beatles history.
Yes, oh yes, yes.
And I believe you recently commemorated the 40th anniversary of John and Paul's meeting.
We did, that was last year, and we repeated the whole fair day and got together the old crowd, the quarrymen as they were, and they played again on the field in the afternoon and in the evening in the hall as a skiffle group.
And I've heard there was a story about some aircraft that flew over.
Yes, 2 planes came over, 2 small planes, and we thought it was Yoko and Paul who could have been in them, just to have a look at the day.
And they sent their best wishes to you, I believe.
They sent us letters wishing us the best for the day and so on, yes.
So this must be something of a mecca for Beatles fans. Do you get a lot of tourists?
We do, yes, many tourists from all over the world, in fact, yes.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Ken.
Right, fine, thank you.
It was in this tiny council house, number 174 Mackett's Lane, that the youngest member of the Beatles, George Harrison, lived. His father was a bus driver, and the family lived here until 1965, when the pressure of fame forced them to move to a house in nearby Warrington that George bought for his father. In stark contrast to the relative prosperity of the areas where John, Paul and George grew up, Richard Starkey, Ringo Starr, was born here in the working class heart of Liverpool, the Dingle, at number 9 Madryn Street. This house that heard Ringo Starr's first newborn cries is now derelict, the windows boarded up. Even the original door is gone, and they've replaced it with a second-hand door. Ringo lived here for 6 years, until his mother, to take advantage of lower rents, swapped this house with a friend and moved across the way to Admiral Grove.
Has Ringo suggested you should stop work as a Liverpool Corporation painter?
He certainly has, but I don't want to move. I like my job and I like the people I work with. They've been really wonderful to me.
Has Ringo's affluence made any difference to you at all?
No, not in a way. I'm happy for him, like, that what he's doing, like, he's got security for the rest of his life. And we're quite happy about it, the wife and I.
Mrs. Gravestarkey, does Ringo want to move house?
I don't really think so. He's asked us to have another house, but we're quite happy, and the neighbours and everybody's very good and proud that the boys have got to where they are.
Will the neighbours not become envious of all the wealth that's been accumulated by the Beatles?
No, not the neighbours around here. They're all very good and all quite proud.
Ringo lived here at number 10 Admiral Grove from the age of 6 until he found fame and fortune with the Beatles. The pub on the corner, the Empress, appeared on the album cover of his first solo album, Sentimental Journeys. And Ringo's stepfather and his mother clung on to this house until the fan power pushed them out.
But it seems to me that after your show, your real problems really begin. What's it like with these fans outside, Paul?
At first, it's murder, because, you know, it looks as though they're going to tear you apart. Once you get the hang of it, you get used to it, and I think it gets a bit easier.
Have you ever been in physical danger from your fans?
Well, occasionally, yes. Only when there's been a big mob, you know, a really big one. But usually they're quite nice if there's only a few at a time when you meet them.
Yeah. What is it? Do you deliberately try and create these sort of screaming reactions?
No, we just, you know, arrive at the theatre and they're always there waiting. And whenever we're doing a show, the police always come and say, don't look out the window, you know. I'm dying to look out.
As well as being a songwriter, John Lennon was a poet and a talented artist. He studied art here at the Liverpool College of Art, just around the corner from where Paul and George were going to high school. The Liverpool Institute, behind me, was Paul McCartney and George Harrison's secondary school. Paul was a natural student and passed his exams with ease, while George, the natural rebel, hated to wear the school uniform. When the building was closed, Paul bought it and established the Liverpool School for Performing Arts, not unlike New York's Fame School. It's just possible by doing this that one day you may see another group of Liverpool lads capture the world's musical stage from the humble beginnings of this sandstone building.
In October 1963, the Ivor Novello Awards are announced. These prestigious awards are sponsored by the British Association of Songwriters, Composers and Authors. Some awards are decided by sales and others by a panel of judges. The Beatles win 5 Ivor Novello Awards. These include the top-selling single in the UK with She Loves You, second top-selling single, I Want to Hold Your Hand. The most played song on UK radio is She Loves You. The second most outstanding song, All My Loving. The most outstanding contribution to UK music is, you've got it, The Beatles.
Behind us is the Prince of Wales Theatre. This was the venue for the Beatles' most famous British concert, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was November 1963. They played the Royal Command performance in the presence of the Queen Mother and Princess Margaret.
Paul, have you thought about your act for the show yet? Any changes in the act, or is it going to be, you know, the usual routine?
No, we'll have to change it, I'm sure. We can't.
No, stop it.
We'll have to change it, but we can't do the same thing all the time. We haven't thought about what we're going to do yet.
Suits with collars on? Brush party in
never
hair,
know.
something like that?
We may not wear suits. You never know. We've no idea.
John, in this royal variety show, when you're appearing before royalty, your language has got to be pretty good, obviously. This thing about Ted, he's saying that he couldn't distinguish.
I can't understand
the
Teddy.
Queen's English.
I can't understand Teddy saying that at all, really. I'm not going to vote for Ted.
But you're not going to change your act just for the Lord Privy Seal?
Oh, no, like, we'll keep, like, the same kind of thing, like, won't we?
Oh, well, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
The other thing about this show, which is extremely famous, was John Lennon's remark prior to the Beatles' fourth and final song of the evening. He basically asked the people in the cheaper seats if they would clap their hands on the next number, Twist and Shout, and if the rest of you would just rattle your jewellery. And in 1963, that was quite a risque gag, basically, but fortunately it went down pretty well with the whole audience.
In January 1964, the Beatles play a set of concerts at the Olympia Theatre in Paris. They were booked as the warm-up band for Trini Lopez. However, it soon became clear that the venues were being sold out for the British Mop Tops.
It's funny, you see, there were more boys than girls, and we missed the good old screams. Yeah. But, you know, there were quite a lot of shouts, but...
You mean they actually listen to you? That's the difference, is it?
Yeah.
What's the French electrical supply like over there?
It's good, actually. All the equipment's great, but on the first night, as you may know, we had a bit of trouble because we suddenly found there was a radio program just sort of plugging into everything, and they'd overloaded all the amps and everything. It was boom.
What is the sort of stuff they like over there on the parade?
Wilder stuff, I think. We stuck in a Wilder number, to finish off with. Gone with the Wind.
They go for the Elvis Presley type of stuff, do they? I mean, they go for the older rock and roll stuff?
I think so, yeah, a bit more. It depended really who was in. It depended upon who was in. I can't speak.
You think
speaking French so much, you see. Je me lève, etc.
You brushed up your French, have you?
No, kidding, I can't speak a word of it.
You still can't speak a word?
No. John's very good. Bonsoir and all that sort of stuff. He's very good.
I hear that you're going to give some poetry recital. I hear you're going to give some poetry recital.
Beethoven's poems.
Well, when's this? At the City of London Festival. I heard that you...
Yeah, he knows, you see. It's a secret, don't tell anybody.
What poems you going to give?
Beethoven's. You remember him? Beethoven.
So that was, another rung up the ladder for the Beatles. For many people, it would have been the pinnacle of their career. For the Beatles, it was just, a rung up the ladder and on to the next big thing, which happened to be around the corner for them in the United States.
Looking forward to this American trip. Have you had any reaction over there? You got any fan clubs going? Is there
there's one supposed to be started, and they're getting quite good response. 12,000 letters a day.
But the Beatle movement's going over there.
Yeah, you can even be a Beatle booster, folks. Yeah.
I must tell you, by the way, that Detroit University have got to stamp out the Beatle movement.
I know.
We heard about
Detroit.
They think your haircuts are un-American.
Well, it was very observant of them, because we aren't American, actually.
True, that.
True.
On a damp, cold February morning, the Beatles prepare for their biggest adventure yet, their first US tour. Thousands of loyal British fans turn up to see them all. Despite the obvious adulation at home, they had little idea of what awaited them. They need not have worried. At New York's Kennedy Airport, they are greeted by 3,000 fans and at least 100 journalists and photographers. Throughout a packed tour, the crowds would only get bigger.
Their style, their haircut. And you wanted to imitate them? Yes. I want to look like a Beatle, too. You want to be like the Beatles? Yeah, I sing. I go to the American Academy. I want to be a Beatle when I graduate. What makes the Beatles so good?
I don't know. They're just great. They're adorable. They sing great. And they write their own songs. And all the songs are great. Even the songs that are crummy, they sing great. So it doesn't matter.
Tired but lazy, John, Paul, George and Ringo return triumphant to the UK, where they are met by thousands of their fans at the airport who have obviously missed them. So much so, they even bake a cake.
Would you like to grow up to be a Beatle? think they're the best there's ever been?
Oh yes, definitely.
Did you have any other pop star you liked before them?
No. The way they sing, their clothes, their hair, and Ringo Starr.
But what's so special about them that makes you come out here on such a horrible day?
Well, they're just, they're great. It sounds different. Well, it was before the Astros came out.
What did you most like about the trip, Ringo?
Oh, I just loved all of it, you know, especially Miami. The sun, you know. I didn't know what it meant till I went over there.
Don't you get it up in Liverpool?
No, they finished up there, you know. Cut it out.
Did you ever have a chance, John, to just get away on your own without anybody recognising you?
We borrowed a couple of millionaires' houses, you know.
Well, we did. You could afford to buy a couple of millionaires' houses, couldn't you?
We'd sooner borrow them, it's cheaper. And we did a bit of water skiing. Well, sort of, anyway.
Yeah, we had a great time.
Did your wife enjoy it over there?
Yeah, she loved it. Who?
Don't tell him he's married, it's a secret.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to. What about the taste of the fans over there? Did you find the same stuff?
You never been.
We expected them to be very different, but they weren't at all.
Yeah.
The accent was the only thing, you know, it was the only difference. Lovely.
Did they reckon you sang in an English accent or American?
No, some fella said, how come because you're from Britain and you still sing an American accent or something? So funny. We've been trying to explain to him that it's a Liverpool accent.
You know, but he wouldn't believe it.
He kept saying, oh, it's funny.
When you came back from France, you told me that they liked the sort of quicker numbers.
Yeah.
But what did you do? You just do all the same routine as you do here?
Yes.
Because the records that are hits over there are the ones that are hits.
Oh yeah, we had to do
here.
Please Please Me over there.
Yeah.
And we haven't been doing that for a long time here, but it's in the charts.
That's history here.
Yeah.
What about the Beatles styles, all these wigs and suits and things? Are they catching on over
Yeah, they're selling well.
I hear anyway that the four of you are going to be millionaires by the end of the year.
That's nice.
Have you got time? Have you got time to actually spend this money?
What money? He said.
Doesn't he give any to you?
No. You seen that car of his?
One of the things you did was visit Clay. One of the things you did was visit Cassius Clay.
He's a big lad.
Who's going to win? Clay Liston.
Ringo. I'll win him. Well, it all depends, you see. If you go to his gym, you have to say he wins. And if you go to Liston's gym, you say Liston will win.
Yeah.
The big lad, Jim
will win.
Big monsters
will win, but Cassius Clay is a good singer.
He's a good singer.
He told us, he's Chubby Checker's cousin.
He made up a poem as well.
Yeah.
This one of the things that have been reported over here in the British Embassy. What actually happened in Washington at this place?
Well, we just sort of went. Excuse me. Cut. We just went up to this sort of embassy party given by this lord.
Yeah.
And
the British ambassador.
He was a lord, isn't he? Lord. Oh, Lord. Well, and we went up to his house, and there was it was a bit hectic, you know, and we judged the bingo or something.
But what about this business of somebody coming up and cutting your hair?
Oh, it was him.
Tell them about it. Whereabouts?
At the back, can you see? Look how short it is now.
It's a terrible loss.
I know. Oh my God! If I'd have caught him.
Pardon?
No. I just looked round and you just saw all the faces.
What does it feel like to be 21?
The same.
Come.
I don't really fancy 21. I much rather like 20. You know, it's sort of nice round figure and all that. Happy birthday to you, 23 today.
Thank you very much. Tell me, what presents have you got?
George, will you come in? Let's go back a bit. Fred, can you come out of the George? Yeah. George, put one in your mouth. Everybody back.
4-foot-high cake and 52 bags of stuff to be looked through. So I can't say at the moment. I'd like to say thanks a lot anyway, you know, because, you know, thousands of people have sent me things. Thank you, everybody. Very nice.
And you can hear the screams as we come up the river now, and it's Cambridge in the lead. And you can hear the distant screaming from a thin bridge in the near future.
Got it, Jamie. We got it.
So Richard, this is the London Apollo, but it didn't always look like this, did it?
No, back in 1964, Christmas of 1964, you would have seen the letters, The Beatles Christmas Show, right across the front. It was a package show that they did for their fans, comedy and music. And in those days, this was, of course, the Hammersmith Odeon. And then in Christmas of 65, they did another Beatles Christmas show. Didn't repeat it in 66.
Bottle or two, a couple of bottles, package of ciggies.
How about a special message, George?
Yeah, a very merry happy Christmas and send me jacket back, it's cold.
John.
Gary Crimble and Manny Rudolph.
Ringo.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, see you soon.
Paul.
Lots of luck and many presents and happy Crimble. That's all I think.
With a song for Christmas. How about that?
Gary Crimble to you, Gary Crimble to you, Gary Crimble, dear Rudolph, Gary Crimble, me too. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose. How many shiny
All right. Happy Christmas, all the best.
Thank you.
But the main reason that we're here really is not so much for what they did during the Christmas shows, but for an interesting little artefact around the back of the building.
So Richard, this wrought iron staircase behind the theatre looms large in the Beatles legend.
Absolutely. 1964, the film A Hard Day's Night, and there's a segment where the Beatles come rushing out of here. Ringo comes out of this door and says, "We're out." They've just escaped the pressures of filming a TV show, and they come running down this wrought iron staircase and to the song Can't Buy Me Love, and it's like in fast motion. You see them all running down this staircase and running out.
I remember, and they rush off into this field here.
There is no field here. There never was. It's just a parking lot, but basically it was spliced together in the film almost seamlessly. It's quite easy to join, really.
Thank you very much.
George. There's yours, John. I think somebody's got to say a word.
It's very nice indeed to get, especially to get one each, because we usually have a bit of trouble cutting them in 4. I'd just like to say thank you very much. It's a great honour.
Thank you.
Now, Paul.
Same goes for me. Thank you very much for giving us this Silver Heart. But I still think you should have given one to good old Mr. Wilson.
Ringo. Anyone who knows us know I'm the one that never speaks, so I'd just like to say thanks a lot.
I'd just like to say the same as the others. Thanks for the Purple Hearts. Silver! Sorry about that, Harold. We'd like to sincerely thank you all, and we've got to go now because the fella on the film wants us, and he says it's costing him a fortune. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Playing television director in Hard Day's Night, and as I walked on the set before we started shooting, we started to talk, and it was as if we'd known each other all our lives. It was the most extraordinary thing. I think it's because they came from Liverpool, and I came from South Wales, that those kind of backgrounds, that we sort of hit it off straight away, and we just started talking, and, well, we hadn't really started. The Hard Day's Night was extraordinary because nobody knew what it was going to be. And in fact, the producer himself had no idea that it was going to be such a success. And it was filmed in a theatre, La Scala Theatre in London, which is now, of course, pulled out. And when we got on the set, I was playing the television director, and they didn't keep to the script that much. And Dick Lest had about 4 or 5 cameras working at once to catch them looking natural, rather than when you do face a camera, sometimes people first face it, they stiffen up. But to make them look natural, he had about 4 or 5 cameras. You'd be talking in a scene, and a cameraman would suddenly crawl between your legs with a handheld camera, you know, and you just kept going. And in that situation, I walked on the set at one point. I wish those outtakes would appear now. They were extraordinary. I walked on the set at one point in this hairy sweater, and I said to the lads, my line in the script was, "You're late for rehearsals." And they say, sorry, sir, we didn't know," or something like that. But they didn't do anything like that. I walked on the set and I said, "You're late for rehearsals." And the director of this show, and John Lennon said, "You're not a director. You're Victor Spinetti playing the part of a director." But I kept going. And I said, "I am a director. I have an award," I said, "on the wall in my office." And John said, you haven't even got an office. You haven't even got a dressing room." And as I turned to walk away from him, because the camera was now filming John, you see, talking as I turned, I hit the cymbals of Ringo's drums. And Ringo said, "Hey, he's fingering me cymbals." And John then, quick as a flash, said, "Oh, well, then he must be a television director, because television directors are famous cymbal fingering."
The Beatles' second film, Help, is guaranteed success when both Princess Margaret and Lord Snowdon attend its premiere. Both the album and single inevitably hit the #1 spot.
Of course, my family sat up and took notice immediately because I was working with the Beatles, and my kid brother, Henry, I mean, little, he was what, he was 11, 12. I'd come home from London having done this show or that show or been in this play or that musical, but once I was in the Beatle films, my kid brother practically stood to attention when I came into the house. And he wanted to be a drummer, and so he was talking to me about Ringo and everything. Well, my kid brother was Eric Clapton's drummer for 6 years.
Piccadilly Circus, the heart of London.
Yes.
Here we have the London Pavilion, which is now a shopping arcade, but I believe in the 60s it was a cinema.
That's right, and in fact it was the place where the Beatles had the premieres of their films A Hard Day's Night, Help, and in 1968 Yellow Submarine. And all of them were Royal World Charity Gala premieres. That was the status of the Beatles in the 60s. And on all three occasions for their premieres, the traffic in Piccadilly Circus was brought to an absolute standstill. Thousands of people mobbing the streets, and you know, just amazing occasions every time. And it showed their pulling power even through to the end of the decade, that they could mob the streets like that just by turning up together.
What's your point here?
Actually, we aimed at sort of the young boys, but we seem to be getting a cross-section of almost everyone. For example, we've had letters from Eton College, we've had letters from Buckingham Palace, if I can use it, we've had from the Windsor Lifeguards, we've had from a title lady, and then you go down the scale right to a young boy living in a small house in Leicester who said he'd like to have a little Beatle wig because it's...
The famous grapes. Every night after a hard performance at the Cavern just up the street, the lads would come to this landmark Liverpool pub. They drink here at this very bar.
Okay, lads, you're pretty regular top of the pollsters. What do you think about this election business?
Very good.
Great, isn't it?
Good stuff, this election stuff.
It's all right if you win.
Do you think it's harder being a politician than being a pop star?
Yes, definitely.
Probably. Very much so.
Never been a politician, though.
What's going to happen if you have to nationalise you then?
Southern Ireland.
Well, we'll have to move out, won't we?
Yeah.
We'll have to go and live in Germany or someplace like that.
Southern Ireland is nice down
It's
there.
only half an hour away.
Yeah.
Have you in actual fact had time to vote yourselves?
No, we missed
No,
it, actually.
we
We
missed We were having dinner at the time.
Have you been heckled at all? Have you ever had...
Oh, yeah, we used to have it, especially in the early days.
Oh, yeah.
But John had a perfect answer. What was it? Short or?
I heard the joke about the...
No, that was the other day.
During the last few weeks, the Drummond group and the Hume group and the Wilson group have been edging you off the papers. Have you been envious of all these groups?
No, we sell more
The whole
records.
situation looks pretty grim, doesn't it?
That's a good one. Good one, Doug.
No, you know, good luck to them.
Have any of the political parties actually contacted you and said, would you say publicly you'd vote for us?
Oh,
No, because then the others don't buy the records.
What about this business of being on the wane? Is that all over?
Well, we get it about every 2 months. Somebody says, you're finished, you're on the wane. You know, they say
Well, we're
Dave
still
Clark's
having a
in,
laugh.
Brian Poole's in.
Aren't we?
You know, they're probably all in, but we're still having a good time ourselves.
You don't look too bad for four lads. You don't look too bad for four lads likely to be on your way to the dole queue, do you?
No, well, we passed one the other day, didn't we, for...
Yes, we passed
We're
the
still
dole
on the
queue.
dole as well, don't tell Harold.
Just getting back to the election for a moment, have you taken much interest in it? Have you...
Taken interest, you know, because it's interesting and it's exciting. But we didn't actually get the chance to vote, as we told you before.
Have you read the speeches?
Read them. Read the comics.
You've been away.
Saw the film.
Read the comics.
Have you watched it on television?
Well, we will as soon as you go.
Look, there's a telly in the next room.
Paul had aspirations to become Prime Minister. Have you still got those ideas?
No, not politicians. It's a hard life, you see. It's a hard day's grind.
Why exactly have you come here? What's the trouble with you?
He's joking, isn't he? I've got a bit of a... Well, I haven't got a bad throat, but the doctor thinks I have. He wants me to get me tonsils out, you see.
Has this been troubling you wrong?
No, the last time I was in here was the first real trouble I had.
I see.
I feel fine.
How long do you intend being here?
Plugging it, you know. Pardon?
How long do you intend being in hospital?
Well, they reckon about a week to 10 days.
How are you going to be passing the time? What will you be doing?
Well, I've got a telly in the room. I love telly, see. Brought a book with me, and I've got a few albums, and the record player's coming later.
Will you be bringing any records in with you?
I've brought some in.
What are they?
There's all sorts, from Bob Dylan, the Supremes, James Brown, Yusef Lateef, Chico Hamilton.
And will the other boys be coming to see you?
I don't think so.
Where are they at the moment?
Just all around, you know, in their houses.
And what happens when you come out of hospital?
I have about 10 days off, then we rehearse for the Christmas show at the Hammersmith Odeon.
How are you? How did you enjoy your stay in hospital?
Oh, it was nice, thanks.
Had a good time. How did you get on with the nurses?
Not so bad, you know. Very nice nurses.
Were you a model patient, do you
better
think?
ask the nurses about that.
What did you dislike about being in hospital?
Nothing really, because I had to go in, so, you know, I just sort of settled down and read and played records and got used to it again.
How's your voice feel now?
Not so bad. I don't think it's changed, do you?
Could we hear it?
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Bit of singing, perhaps?
No, not a bit of singing. bad enough when I have, really.
What do you think about this rumour of George being married?
He's not married because he came in to see me and he told me.
On the 11th of February 1965, Ringo Starr marries Maureen Cox. The ceremony takes place at Caxton Hall in London. Even on this occasion, they are obviously not getting much time to themselves.
Congratulations too, Mrs. Starkey.
I'm still not used to that yet, you know.
Are you really going to get a honeymoon?
No, I don't think so. Not with the likes of you chaps around.
No. Are you thinking of a honeymoon?
Well, this was supposed to be it, but it didn't work.
Well, for how long was it supposed to be?
Well, I have to start work on Monday, so I was going back to some... John and George were at the wedding, and they were made up, you know. They're happy, but we don't know about Paul yet, because he's away on holiday.
He hasn't been in contact. Did he know you were getting married?
No.
Where is he?
He's away.
Do you know where?
Yes, but I'm not telling you. Well, you might as well have a bit of peace. I'm not getting it.
Presumably met Ringo before the group were very successful, did you?
Yes.
Did you expect he was going to become a public monument like this?
Well, in Liverpool I did.
Yeah.
I didn't think sort of more or less all over the world, you know.
Does that worry you, that the fact that, you know, you can't go anywhere with him?
No, not really. I just sort of enjoy myself.
Do you intend to keep out the limelight like Mrs. Lennon, for example, John Lennon's wife?
Well, I don't like reporters and things.
She's on our side.
I was standing on the balcony with him in Salzburg when we were doing Help. And there were tens of thousands of young Austrians out as far as you could see. And John said, Vic, come and have a look at this. And the Beatles stood on the balcony and all of them put combs to their top lip and all did Cod Hitler speeches. And all these kids laughed. And it was the first time that the young talked to the young and laughed.
On June the 12th, 1965, the Beatles are notified that each will receive the MBE. Not everyone is happy though. Colonel Frederick Ragg returns his 12 decorations and cancels his donation of £11,000 to the Labour Party.
Ringo, how do you feel about going to the palace in a morning suit and all that?
I don't mind, you know. It's all right, when I buy one.
You haven't got one?
No, not yet. I've got an evening suit, that'll do.
I don't think it will. It's different from a morning suit.
Well, I'll just go in my pyjamas then.
Well, gentlemen, first of all, many congratulations on your MBE. The whole country seems very delighted indeed, but how do you feel about it, Paul?
Delighted indeed? You know, I'm glad everyone's delighted. I love it.
But I mean, is it fun for you? Or?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you know, it'd be fun for you, wouldn't it? You know, if you just woke up one morning and he said, you know, it's great.
Ringo, how did you first hear about it?
Well, we heard about it 6 weeks ago when we got the forms to fill in, and then we knew that we were going to get it 2 days ago, officially.
How did these forms come? What, straight through the post or in the fan mail or what?
I don't, just in brown envelopes. They were delivered by somebody, you know, by hand. I think one of Brian's secretaries.
I'll tell you.
All right,
I'll
how did you enjoy yours?
They were sent from the Prime Minister at Downing Street to our manager's office, and they were delivered from there to Twickenham, where we were filming. And then about the day later, we just found them, and we thought we were being called up for the army. And then we opened them, and we found out we weren't. We
all said that line.
I know, but this is at ITV. That was the other one.
Even though there's no number on the gate, I know this is number 7, Cavendish Avenue, northwest London.
Correct.
What's so special about this pretty Victorian house?
Well, Paul McCartney bought this house in St John's Wood, just around the corner from the Abbey Road studios.
So this is Paul McCartney's house?
Absolutely, he still owns it. He lived here until 1978, but since then, his children, as they've grown up and been, you know, like young adults, they basically moved in here for a time and moved out. In the 60s, this was a shrine for the Beatles fan, a gathering place. Either it would be their Apple office building in the centre of London, or Paul McCartney's house. All the fans would be outside here, all the girls, and Paul, always a great
public relations guy would come out here and sign autographs and chat with them and pose for photos. So it's still a very famous place, and that's why the number's not here.
And the scene of some incredible parties in the 60s,
Absolutely. There's even a story that in 1969, when the Beatles were on the outs with one another, that basically it was John, George and Ringo had a major gripe with Paul, and one night they came past here and Paul wasn't in, and John jumped over these gates and threw a brick through the window and then hopped back over and back in the limo, and off they went.
Which window do you think it was?
I'm not sure which one. Paul also got quite upset at one point because some of the fans came into the house one day when he wasn't here, and they started basically going in and going through his clothes and stealing underwear and things like that, and when he got to find out, he actually did get very angry about it. He held on to it, and even today, sometimes when he's in town, it's not that often, but sometimes in town, if he does do a session at Abbey Road or something and it's late night, it's 2 in the morning, rather than drive back to Sussex, they might stay here the night.
Is this your first trip south?
No, we've been to Texas before.
Where are you going when you leave here?
Cincinnati, that's it.
Cincinnati, and then how long are you going to be in the States?
About two more weeks.
2 more weeks?
Yeah.
What did you have for lunch?
Oh, I didn't eat much. Anyway,
No story of the Beatles would be complete without controversy. As their fame and popularity increased, they seemed to think that they could do no wrong and became more and more outspoken. This was brought to a head in the summer of 1966 when John compared the popularity of the Beatles with that of Jesus Christ. If that was not enough, a little later, Paul openly admitted to the press that he had experimented with the drug LSD. All of this led to some anti-Beatle feeling, especially in the US, where over 30 radio stations boycotted Beatle recordings, and a string of Beatle bonfires were lit, even going as far as burning pictures and records of the Fab Four.
What difference has all this row made to this tour, do you think? Any at all? Paul?
I don't think it's made much to it. It's made it more hectic. It's made all the press conferences mean a bit more. People said to us, last time we came, all our answers were a bit flippant. And they said, why isn't it this time? Well, the thing is, the questions are a bit more serious this time. It hasn't affected any of the bookings. The bookings have been, the people coming to the concerts have been the same, except for the first show in Memphis, which was a bit down, but so what?
The disc jockey, Tommy Charles, who started this row off, has said that he won't play your records until you've grown up a little. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't mind if he never plays them again.
You see, this is the thing, everyone seems to think that when they hear us say things like this, that we're so childish, you can't say things like that unless you're a silly little child. But
And if he was grown up, he wouldn't have done the thing, because he only did it for a stunt anyway. So, who's he to say about growing up? Who is he?
Who is this guy?
Who is he
Just
exactly? Apart from that, it's great.
Having a swinging tour.
Do you feel that Americans are out to get you, that this is all developing into something of a witch hunt?
No, we thought it might be that kind of thing. I think a lot of people in England did, because there's this thing about, when America gets violent, gets very hung up on a thing, it tends to have this sort of Ku Klux Klan thing around it.
It seems to me you've always been successful because you've been outspoken and direct and forthright and all this sort of thing. Does it seem a bit hard to you that people are now knocking you for this very thing?
Yes, Richard.
It seems very hard.
It seems hard, free speech.
But is it possible just to say what you think all the time? What about 14-year-old teenagers who think you're absolutely marvellous and can't bear to be heard?
See, we're not, when we say anything like that, we don't say it as older people seem to think, to be offensive. We mean it helpfully, and if it's wrong, what we say, okay, it's wrong, and people can say, you're wrong about that one. But in many cases, we believe it's right, we're quite serious about it.
But do you mind being asked questions, for example, in America, people keep asking you questions about Vietnam. Does this seem useful?
Well, I don't know, if you can say that war's no good and a few people believe you, then it may be good, I don't know.
You can't say too much, though, that's the trouble. It seems a bit silly to be in America and for none of them to mention Vietnam as if nothing was happening.
But why should they ask you about it? You're successful entertainers.
That is the thing. Because Americans always ask showbiz people what they think about it. So do the British, you know. Showbiz, you know how it is. But I mean, you've just got to, you can't just keep quiet about anything that's going on in the world unless you're a monk.
What he said and meant was that he was astonished that in the last 50 years, the Church in England, and therefore Christ, had suffered a decline in interest. He did not mean to boast about the Beatles' fame. He meant to point out that the Beatles' effect appeared to be, to him, a more immediate one upon certainly the younger generation. And in these circumstances, John is deeply concerned and regrets that people with certain religious beliefs should have been offended in any way whatsoever.
It doesn't matter about people not liking our records or not liking the way we look or what we say. You know, they're entitled to not like us, and we're entitled not to have anything to do with them if we don't want to, or not to regard them. You know, we've all got our rights, you know. Harold.
Paul, how often have you taken LSD?
4 times.
And where did you get it from?
Oh, you know, I mean, if I was to say where I got it from, you know, it's illegal and everything. It's silly to say that, you know, so I'd rather not say that.
Don't you believe that this was a matter which you should have kept private?
But the thing is, you know, that I was asked a question by a newspaper, and the decision was whether to tell a lie or to tell him the truth, you know. I decided to tell him the truth, but I really didn't want to say anything, you know, because if I'd had my decision, you know, if I had it my way, I wouldn't have told anyone, you know, because I'm not trying to spread the word about this. But the man from the newspaper is the man from the mass medium, you know. I'll keep it a personal thing. If he does too, you know, if he keeps it quiet. But he wanted to spread it, so it's his responsibility, you know, for spreading it, not mine.
But you're a public figure, and you said it in the first place, and you must have known that it would have made the newspapers.
Yes, but to say it, you know, is only to tell the truth. I'm telling the truth, you know. I don't know what everyone's so angry about.
Well, do you think you have now encouraged your fans to take drugs?
I don't think it'll make any difference, you know. I don't think my fans are going to take drugs just because I did, you know. But the thing is, that's not the point anyway, you know. I was asked whether I had or not. And then from then on, the whole bit about how far it's going to go and how many people it's going to encourage is up to the newspapers and up to you, you know, on television. I mean, you're spreading this now at this moment. This is going into all the homes, you know, in Britain. And I'd rather it didn't, you know. But you're asking me the question. You want me to be honest. I'll be honest, you know.
But as a public figure, surely you've got a responsibility to lots and
No,
lots
it's
of
you've
teenagers.
got the responsibility. You've got the responsibility not to spread this now. You know, I'm quite prepared to keep it as a very personal thing, if you will too. If you'll shut up about it, I will.
I remember one day going down to spend a day with George, and it was the most wonderful day. There was this room with white curtains. There was George in this white outfit, dhoti, whatever they call those Indian outfits, playing this 1,000-year-old white sitar. And it's only me sitting there saying, listen to this, Vic, it's amazing, this. And I said, George, I can't get it together with Indian music. And he said, well, Vic, you don't listen to it, you let it happen to you.
That Indian music could suddenly appear on the pop scene.
Tied into the spiritual life, and so there's no way you can seriously get involved with classical ragas of India without finding out what's behind it, and behind everything that has any depth you'll find the yogis of the Himalayas.
When John wrote Penny Lane with Paul, he said he was reliving his childhood. He was brought up for the first 5 years of his life in Newcastle Road and used to walk past Penny Lane every morning on his way to school. The bank, the barber shop were here. The fish and finger pie shelter stood there where Sergeant Pepper's licensed restaurant now stands. On the other corner, Woolworths, where Cynthia Lennon worked and where she went into labour with Julian Lennon. And in front of me, the parish church of St. Barnabas, where the quarrymen often played. Strawberry Field, immortalised by John Lennon, was a place very dear to his heart. He'd walk through this very gate with his Aunt Mimi to visit the summer fetes, and where once a beautiful Victorian mansion stood, there's now a red brick building that John helped to build. It's still a Salvation Army children's home, and the association goes on. As you can see, the gate is covered with the messages and thoughts of the fans that cover every building that are associated with the Beatles. Strawberry Fields forever.
People go through their lives, they grow up, they get married, they have children, they do work, but at some point they sit down and think, oh, life's passed me by. And John used to say, why does that happen? There'd be that dissatisfaction in the center of people, that whatever they do, they think, oh no, why do they feel that life's passed them by? Life is it now. So he explored that and wanted to find out how you could get that permanent kind of high, if you like, of being in the now. And so they said to me when he was in New York, you got to come meet the Maharishi. And I went to meet him. It was at the Plaza Hotel. And he's sitting in this room with all these flowers and incense and candles. And sitting there in the middle of this room, there are all these people sitting around. He took a present, took an orange or an apple or a banana or something. And he sat there smiling and giggling away. And this lady said at one point, excuse me, Your Highness, but how do you teach children the principles of transcendental meditation? And he screamed with laughter and said, my dear lady, they invented it.
By this morning they feel quite fresh.
Have they seen you yet?
Mm.
They have last night?
Yesterday, the moment they came, they met me for about 10 minutes. And then now they have been with me from about 10 o'clock.
Did you get any calls today?
After their breakfast.
How long were they together with you?
From 10 until now, I think about 3 hours.
And what did you do? Did you meditate or did you talk?
Meditation and some talk. And
He was trying to tell them how to live in the moment, which is John was always talking about. How do you live in that moment of saying, right, this is me now. Why should I feel when I'm older disappointed or whatever? And maybe fighting out of that depression. That's why he was searching for that.
What do they have to do to attain this?
To attain this, they have to have a deep and clear experience of being.
Following an accidental overdose of drugs and alcohol, Brian Epstein, the Beatles' long-time manager and friend, is found dead at his London apartment. He was only 27 years old.
Would you be today without Mr. Epstein?
I don't know.
Are you driving down to London tonight?
Yes, somebody's taking us down, yeah.
You heard the news this afternoon, I believe.
Yes.
And Paul's already gone down?
Yes.
I see. You've no idea what your plans are for tomorrow?
No, we'd just go and find out, you know. And
just have to play everything by ear.
Yes. I understand that Mr. Epstein was to be initiated here tomorrow.
Yes.
Mm.
When was he coming up? Was he coming up in the afternoon?
Tomorrow, just Monday, that's all we knew.
Had you told him very much about the spiritual regeneration movement?
Well, as much as we'd learned about spiritualism and various things of that nature, then we'd tried to pass on to him, and he was equally as interested as we are, as everybody should be. He wanted to know about life as much as we do.
Had you spoken to him since since you became interested this weekend?
No. I spoke to him Wednesday evening, the evening before we first saw Maharishi's lecture, and he was in great spirits.
And when did he tell you that he'd like to be initiated?
Well, when we arrived here on Friday, we got a telephone call later that day to say that Brian would follow us up and be here Monday.
Do you intend returning to Bangor before the end of this conference?
We probably won't have time now, because Maharishi will only be here till about Thursday, and we'll have so much to do in London that we'll have to meet him again some other time.
Brian Epstein's funeral service is held at the Green Park Synagogue in Liverpool. He is later buried at the Kirkdale Cemetery.
This is number 94 Baker Street. I believe this used to be a very different building in the 60s.
That's right. In December of 1967, the Beatles decided to go retail. They wanted to branch out from, you know, just the music world that they were involved in up to that point, and so they opened their own retail outlet. And it was the Apple boutique, and it was very much stocking the kind of clothes of the day, the psychedelic, way out clothes of the swinging 60s in London. And they had a group called The Fall design a giant psychedelic mural around the top of the building, going right the way round the corner. Unfortunately for the Beatles and for The Fall, who did so much work on this, the local residents, local business people complained so much that the council forced them to whitewash the walls, get rid of the mural. And the boutique itself didn't last a whole lot longer. It basically lost money. People didn't obviously dig the clothes as much as the Beatles themselves did. So within months they decided to shut it down. The Beatles and their wives came in one night, took all the choice stock as they saw it, and then the next day it was a giveaway. People were lining up around the block taking all the clothes away for nothing.
But at one point this was a core part of the business.
Absolutely, yeah. But it was also the way that Apple began to unravel.
Much to the disappointment of millions of female Beatle fans, Paul McCartney marries girlfriend Linda Leesman at London's Marylebone Registry Office. Linda's 6-year-old daughter Heather gets her first taste of Beatle fame.
Just, you know, so we decided to do it instead of thinking about it.
Linda, how do you feel about it all? You're obviously terribly happy. How are you feeling this morning?
Terribly happy.
That sounds good enough.
Unquote.
Linda, you've been described as a New York socialite. Does this mean you'll be spending much of your time in New York?
No.
Where will you be living?
In London.
In London. Paul, what about you? How do you feel to be the father
Yes, I'll
to
be
a
living in
6-year-old?
London.
You'll be living in London. How about being the father to a 6-year-old child?
It's terrible. It's terrible. I hate it. I hate it, and it's going to be a terrible burden. I do. It's horrible. Yeah. You're on the telly. You're on the telly. Quick.
Many of the fans, the girls who have been waiting outside the house and outside the hotel today, seem to be more than upset about this. What do you feel?
I don't know what I feel about that, you know.
This is a problem you've met before.
No, it's okay. I talked to it. I don't know. It's just difficult, that. What do you say?
And this is the famous Abbey Road crossing.
The famous Abbey Road crossing in London, St John's Wood.
How many millions of feet do you think have stepped on that crossing since the famous album cover?
I'd say a few more than just the 8 feet of the Beatles back in 1969. That crossing, morning, noon and night, has tourists from all over the world going across. Screeching brakes are heard by the studio. Residents have to put up with all these people.
And this wall, the studio's front wall at Abbey Road, is a shrine to the Beatles. Presumably some of this graffiti's been here since the 60s.
I don't think so. In the 60s, this was absolutely beautiful and pristine white, and so it is every 3 months, believe it or not. Really? This is just the last 3 months of graffiti that you see, and the studio does its best every time just to keep it clean, and the fans come straight back. Over there, through the railings, we see the loading bay for Studio 2. That is where the equipment would get loaded in and also trucked out. And Studio 2, the studio where the Beatles did most of their most famous recordings. And then the steps to the studio, the main entrance there, that is basically where the group would go in and out of. In the 60s, the fans would quite often just see the group going in, going out. There was no big fuss made of that back then. And there are photos of the fans basically meeting the group in this forecourt.
Hey, can I have a word? Are the Beatles going to go their own ways in 1967?
They could be, you know, on our own or together. We're always involved with each other, whatever we're doing.
Could you ever see a time when, in fact, you weren't working together?
I could see us working not together for a period, but we'd always get together for one reason or other. I mean, you need other people for ideas as well, but, you know, and we all get along fine.
Will you be doing films on your own next year?
No, I don't want to make a career of it. I did it just because I felt like doing it. And if Dick Lester asked me, and I said yes, and I wouldn't have done it if the others hadn't liked it. You know? They said fine because we were on holiday anyway.
Do the others have film ambitions on their own?
No, nobody's particularly interested in it. I'm not all that mad on it.
What do you really want to do? I mean, do you write songs?
I don't know, I just want to do a few things, you know.
Yeah. And you haven't really decided exactly what...
No, I'll try a few things, you know, but I just found out a bit more about films doing that. You know.
What's this? The songwriting team thing will keep going on whatever happens, will it?
Yeah, we'll probably carry on writing music forever, you know, whatever else we're doing. Because you just can't stop. You know, you find yourself doing it whether you want to or not.
But do you think the tours, like the American tours and the English one, you know, the stands in England...
You know, there must be a point where they don't work anymore because they're not to do with what we're doing, record-wise or film-wise.
Hi, and what's your name?
My name is Jack.
And where are you from, Jack?
From Norway.
You've come all the way from Norway to see the Abbey Road studios?
Yes. You know, Beatles mean such a lot for me, so that's why I just had to come here.
And are the Beatles still very big in Norway?
Oh yes, Beatles big in Norway. They will always be, yeah.
Paul, good evening. Hello. John Edwards right here.
How are you?
Can I just have a brief word with you?
Yeah?
If you never toured again, would it worry you?
I don't know. No, I don't think so.
Wouldn't worry you?
But because the only thing about that, you see, is that performance for us... See, it's gone downhill, performance, because we can't develop when no one can hear us, you know what I mean? So for us to perform, it's difficult, gets difficult each time.
You mean they don't listen to you, and therefore you don't want to do that?
Oh yeah, we want to do it, but if we're not listened to, then, and we can't even hear ourselves, then we can't improve in that. We can't get any better. So we're trying to get better with things like recording.
How are you? Can I stop you? Well, have a brief word with you. I just want to ask you, do you think that in the new year that you're going to be going your own ways instead of being a group?
No.
No?
No, definitely not.
What about another word?
Do you have any special memories of the Beatles at all?
I remember when I was young, my grandfather, he used to sing Beatles songs to me that he heard on the radio.
Really?
Yes, he certainly did, yeah.
And do you collect Beatles memorabilia?
I certainly do, yes. I have books and records, odds and ends, little statuettes and things like that, yes.
How are you?
Merry Christmas!
How are you?
Fine, fine.
Can I ask you a few questions?
Yes.
Then I'll turn you around this way then, all
Which
right?
way?
This way. No, this
Hello?
way. You're looking very smart anyway.
Yes, well, I had a bath.
What's all this about the Beatles are going to do less together in the new year?
Yeah, we won't be the thing is, you see, to do things together, the four of us, it's going to be the old things all over again, you know.
You don't want to do that?
No, we don't want to do, you know, what we've done already. So the thing is, because of the film, you know, we can't get a decent script, or we're still trying for one. If we don't do that, we'll most probably all do something else different, you know, for next year.
On your own?
Yes, but I mean, it's not like breaking up. We'll still be coming back together at the end of it.
Do you foresee a time when, in fact, the Beatles won't be together and that you'll all be on your own?
No.
Do you get? Have you got tired of each other?
No.
No? Have you got anything lined up on your own? Film parts, for example.
Well, there may be one if we don't do one together early next year to save. See, I'm sort of out of it there because with John and Paul, they can still write even though we're sort of not working together, and George can, you know, learn his sitar and do things like that. And I've just been sitting round.
Getting bored?
No, getting fatter.
But have you fed up of being sort of Beatles,
the thing is,
Beatlemania?
We can't do a tour like we've been doing all these years because our music's progressed. We've used more instruments. It'd be soft us going on stage, the four of us, and trying to do the records we've made with orchestras and, you know, bands and things. So we'd have to, if we went on stage, we'd have to have a whole lineup of men behind us.
Are you getting bored of being the Beatles after all this time?
No, I'm having a great time. Merry Christmas to you. Long time since I've seen you.
Thank you very much, Ringo.
That's all right, thank you.
Are you going to work now?
Well, I'll see what they're up to. I think it may be tea time with any luck. Bye.
And where are you girls from?
I'm from Rome, Italy, Australia.
So two from Australia, where the Beatles were absolutely huge in the 60s.
Enormous.
Enormous? They're still enormous today?
Still.
Because in 1964 they had the top 6 places in your album charts.
Just 9 days after Paul McCartney's wedding, John Lennon marries Yoko Ono in Gibraltar. Shortly after the ceremony, they fly to Amsterdam, where their honeymoon becomes the famous Bedding for Peace.
The spring, you know.
So this is part of your honeymoon?
Yes.
Yes.
how are you enjoying married life?
It's beautiful, you know. It's beautiful.
Some of the things people have said about you haven't been very kind.
No.
Lately.
No.
Does this get you down?
Well, it's so much that it got past being depressing. It's got into a joke again, you know. It was a bit depressing the way they kept picking on Yoko, you know, and saying she was ugly and all personal things like that, but I know she isn't, so.
What about the future of the Beatles? Do you feel that you're still a group? I mean, you've gone through a lot of phases.
Sure. You know, we're closer now, you know, than we ever were.
While you're in bed and you're giving your press conferences in pillowcases and all that, are you laughing at us?
No.
It's no more than you're laughing at us, you know. I mean, we have a laugh. We think it's funny that the front page news should be the fact that two people went to bed on their honeymoon. We see the funny side of it. And that in Vienna, which is a pretty square place, there's all these beautiful photographs of microphones being held to a bag, you know, to wait for the bag to speak.
It's rather nice, you know.
But we're serious about the peace bit, you know. And when as we said to you in Amsterdam, the laughs, if we make people laugh, that's enough, you know.
So this is London's famous Savile Row, in the heart of Mayfair, the most respectable, richest part of the city. What has this building got to do with the Beatles?
Number 3, Savile Row, was the headquarters of their Apple empire in the late 60s. They acquired the building, I think, in about 1967, and they kept it right through the 70s, actually. But in the late 60s, this was another congregating point for the fans. They'd all be out here and they'd see the Beatles coming and going almost every day into the Apple offices. And even this door, believe it or not, has got a story to it. Basically, this was a door for the fans to etch all their graffiti onto, pens, pen knives. In those days it was white, painted white. And even long after the Beatles had disbanded, people would come here, again, almost as a shrine, and etch all their messages of love, or whatever, for the Beatles. Eventually the door was auctioned off, went to auction. There was a second door by the new company who moved in after Apple had vacated the premises, and that door got smothered in graffiti, once again auctioned off. But now I think time has passed, you know, long gone are the days that the Beatles were here, and so now, as we can see, the door seems to have been left alone, albeit the number 3's been picked up. I wonder.
Do you think there was a particularly ardent fan who may have got
maybe
that?
an overzealous fan. In the basement of the building, they had their own recording studio, which in the film Let It Be, in the second half of the film, you see them in that recording studio with Billy Preston on keyboards. And up on the roof, there's the flat roof up there, where at the end of the Let It Be film, they give their final live performance. It was the final performance they ever gave. That was in December of 1969. And that performance kind of went into Beatle folklore, because not only was it their last live appearance, but also it brought the London lunchtime traffic to an absolute standstill. The secretaries were leaving the offices to hear the sound. They couldn't see the Beatles because they were too far back, but they could hear it. Some people actually did go to the trouble of climbing up to the roof. And at the end of the film, you see that the police finally answer the complaints of the employers and pull the jacks out of the back of the Beatles amplifiers, and that ends the film.